evening, and thank you for joining us for this evening, April 26th school board meeting. Mr. Romano, roll call.
Thank you. Mrs. Brinkman.
Present.
Mr. Rudy.
Present.
Mr. Schaff.
Present.
Mrs. Delaney.
Present.
Mr. Chumley.
Present.
5 present.
Okay. First on our agenda, we are going to go into executive session. So I give the recommendation to withdraw to executive session for the purpose of considering the supplemental employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or of compensation of a public employee, and to prepare for negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment. And I need a second.
Second.
Mr. Chumley. Roll call?
Mrs. Brinkman.
Yes.
Is that Mr. Schaff the second?
Mr.
Mr.
Chumley.
Chumley.
Yeah.
Mr. Rudy.
Yes.
Mr. Schaff.
Yes.
Mrs. Delaney.
Yes.
5 yes.
Motion approved. We'll be going into executive session and rejoining the regular session at 7 p.m. Mr. Romano, would you like to take us out of executive session?
Yes. Mrs. Brinkman.
Present.
Mr. Rudy.
Present.
Mr. Schaff.
Present.
Mrs. Delaney.
Present.
Mr. Tillman.
Present.
All present.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Adams.
Tonight, we have some recognitions of our staff that we would like to do here for the board. I will begin with Tiffany McLeese. She is our child nutrition coordinator. So Tiffany, if you want to come forward, you can stand at the podium so everybody can check you out and make sure they know who you are. She was interviewed recently for the February issue of the School Nutrition Magazine, which is a national magazine. One of the excerpts from her interview was, "What excites you about the opportunities ahead?" And Tiffany said, "When something I've tried works to our advantage, it's easily one of the best feelings in the world. To know you've done or created something that will help the children and families we serve is priceless. Even when it doesn't work the way you had envisioned, it's still a win. I've learned from the experience and will still keep trying until we find what does work." So she was featured in this article, and just wanting to let everybody know that Tiffany will be the upcoming president of the Ohio School Nutrition Association at the annual state conference that takes place in Columbus, Ohio in June, effective July 1st. Tiffany and her team have been working very hard and have finalized the department's updated mission and vision statement. So I just want to share those as a added value to our school district. They want to providing collaborative and innovative student dining experiences that promote and encourage positive, lasting nutritional habits. And their mission is promoting and supporting the importance between nutrition, education, and the student dining experience, providing healthy, well-balanced, and high-quality meals that leave our customers feeling happier than when they arrived. And you're going to notice on social media and a lot of their communication coming out that they have a new graphic. That's the West Clermont School District logo, and there are 3 bowls in it. Those three bowls are symbolic. The first bowl represents the quality meals that they serve. The second bowl is the love and attention that they give as they prepare all the meals. And the third is the comfort that they provide for our students to keep them healthy and well. So you are looking at a very passionate, strong leader in West Clermont School District. You're looking at somebody who is being recognized at a national level and at the state level and is taking on a pretty significant role as the president. So we wanted to take a moment to thank you for representing West Clermont so well, doing your job with such heart and with meticulous details in mind as you carry that out. So Mr. Overby has a certificate for you to acknowledge you and a special pin.
We'll do Elbows on that.
Yeah. And of course, we got to do a Kodak moment with Mr. Ryle. And instead of kind of doing the gauntlet, we'll just do kind of like a high five to the board. So we just want to thank you and congratulate you, Tiffany McLeese.
She's also very popular with the students. They're very happy with the menu items that she's providing us, and they're just really pleased with it.
You can take one without the mask, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and her team this summer and the supplying of the meals, well, all spring into the summer, was just incredible. The heavy lifting that they did, and they just were quick to move to action. And she just keeps reinventing herself. So Tiffany, you want to say anything? Because here's your moment if you want to say something.
Please come up, please come up.
You can.
You can take that off
Yeah,
if you want
if
to.
you're gonna talk.
I just want to say thank you very much for the opportunity. West Clermont has really provided me with an opportunity to grow and has encouraged me through in that process. I was very green when I first started with the district, and it's just, I feel like I've just had a chance to really bloom here. So thank you for everyone who's invested in me, and I feel like I can say comfortably that everyone here in West Clermont has done that. Thank you.
And I see that your family's with you, so if you guys want to stand, we know that whenever you're an administrator in West Clermont, your family has to sacrifice every now and then to go without your moms and your dads, and so we just want to thank you for supporting Tiffany tonight. Thank you for coming, and congratulations again,
Yes.
Tiffany.
She's bloomed into a beautiful rose bush. We're so happy and so pleased with
More
her.
than just a bush, a garden.
Yeah, like a little garden, right?
Yeah, a salad with a garden.
Yeah.
Yeah, those
Right.
bowls.
A garden that we can get
Thank
our
you
own
for all
salad
that you do
from.
for us.
Yes,
We
thank you
appreciate
very
it.
much.
Up next, I'll recognize Shannon Pence. She is an intervention specialist at West Clermont High School. She was not able to be with us this evening, but she was recently recognized by the Greater Cincinnati Tri-State Chapter of American Red Cross for being an honored essential worker. And when she was videoed in her recent special that they put on, she was described as rising to the challenge during this pandemic to keep our community safe and healthy. She was also honored along with some pretty high-powered people from the Cincinnati Fire Department, First Student, Kroger, Maple Knoll Community, UC Health, and the American Red Cross. And so on April 12th, she represented our entire district in a video series that they did on this special event. And so we just want to take a moment to publicly congratulate Shannon Pence for being the American Red Cross frontline hero and representing teachers from all over our area, but specifically here in West Clermont, because everyone has done such a great job, and it's nice to be honored. So congratulations, Shannon.
All right, next on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Everyone on the board has received a copy of the agenda well in advance and had time to ask questions and such. And I would like to ask if we have a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
First by Mr. Schaaf, second by Mr. Rudy. Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Schaaf?
Yes.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman?
Yes,
Mrs. Delaney?
Yes.
Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
5 yes.
motion approved. Public comments. Do we have any cards?
Mr. Overby, are there any cards back there?
There are not. Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on to the consent agenda.
We have personnel, Dr. Fultz, 7.01.
Good evening, members of the board, Mrs. Adams, Mr. Romano. In front of you is the personnel agenda for April 26th, 2021. On the agenda today, we have 5 resignations. We also have the proposed hiring of 4 district-level administrators, and as I call their names, I'd like you to stand up. We have Megan Lawson, who will be our new Director of Secondary Teaching and Learning. We have Alicia Sellens, who will be the Coordinator of our Secondary Teaching and Learning. We'll have Eric Dool, who is the Coordinator of Student Services. And our new elementary principal for Merwin Elementary is Thaddeus Highball. Would also like to introduce the substitute principal for Merwin Elementary for the remainder of the year, Julianne Renner. All right, thank you all. You can have a seat. I do want to point out that these positions are not new added positions for the district. Although some of the titles may change, they're actually replacing current district or former district administrative personnel. I'd also like to introduce our new Assistant Athletic Director, Zach McCormick, but I hear that he is otherwise engaged for this evening, which is typical for an athletic director at this point. We have we also have a proposed hiring for 1 elementary art teacher, 3 elementary music teachers, 2 elementary PE teachers, 2 special education teachers, 4 school counselors, and 2 second shift custodians, We also have proposed transfer of an increase of Gregory Caldwell from a 4-hour custodian to an 8-hour custodian, and a transfer of Tyler Hall from custodian to maintenance grounds. Jessica West will be shifting from a supervisor role of educational programs to coordinator of secondary teaching and learning to better align with her increased scope of work. We also have, it is a long agenda today. Included in this agenda is the proposed approval for extended hours by the district supervising nurse last summer, part-time paraprofessional aide, home tutor, athletic contest worker, 2 unpaid leaves of absences, a cafeteria substitute, school student teachers, and nutrition interns that we're having this year. And finally, we have the proposed stipend approval for the winter guard staff and winter percussion. I respectfully request that you approve the personnel agenda as submitted.
Thank you.
Let me continue. So we have 2 sets of minutes in the consent agenda. Those are for the meeting of March 22nd And the second set of minutes is for the meeting on April 12th. We have a list of donations. First donation is Alyssa Vaughn donated a $60 gift card for Kimberly Jetter to use for classroom at Withensville Basketball Elementary. Tracy Gross donated clothes to Holly Hill Elementary for students in need. Staples Beachmont donated hand sanitizer and pocket tissues to Amelia Elementary for students and staff. Jet Family donated books for classroom teachers library at Amelia Elementary. Staples Beachmont again donated hand sanitizer and pocket tissues. I think that's a repeat for students and staff. And then Julianne Nesbitt donated $200 to the West Clermont Elementary Library Fund. Item 7.05 are contracts for the month of March and April. What's listed there and requested for your approval for the superintendent treasurer to execute these agreements. There's 3 that are combined from Powerschool. The first is for software for unified talent. It's an applicant tracking and talent record software. The second is for the implementation and setup of unified talent. And the third is for a business process review. That business process review is for e-finance, that is for a financial ledger system, and for that integration of the unified talent with our payroll system. That business process really extends beyond the treasurer's office and really into all the departments as we do that. That is really for our continuous improvement process that we'd like to put forth. Item 7.06 are the financial statements, bills paid lists, and investments. There's a series of reports that are there. And if I could withhold some comments on those reports till we have the treasurer's comments later on. So I believe the consent agenda then goes from item 7.01 through 7.06, and with the superintendent, so recommend those items.
Okay. You've heard the recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Rudy first, Mr. Chumley seconded. Discussion?
I'm just gonna, go ahead, Jim, I'm sorry.
You got it.
Oh, I was gonna say, I was not present for the meeting on April 12th, but I will say that I did go back and watch the video, so I'm confident in not having to pull that out of the agenda.
Mr. Romano, could you express my personal congratulations to Mrs. Schmidt? She's a wonderful lady, was great to me when I was an employee, and I hope she has a happy retirement.
I will do that.
Thank you.
She's been my short time here, and I know she's had a longer time here, and she will be missed.
Yes, wonderful lady.
Thank you. I will do that. Thank you.
Okay. Anything further? Roll call?
Okay, Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
And it was seconded by Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Brinkman?
Yes.
Mr. Schaff?
Yes.
Mrs. Delaney?
Yes.
5 yes. Thank you.
So item 8.01 is the onward and upward teaching and learning update. We shared a lot of details in our last work session and have been working through all of your feedback and kind of processing all the data. I think when we met last, we were kind of midstream with receiving feedback from our families. So we have a as of 4/26 update that really shows you the progress that has been made and what is up ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I don't know if I. Oh, sorry. Thank you. So, as Natasha said, I've been sort of providing updates as we've been getting information along the way, both as it relates to WCOA and summer school. And so just a reminder of kind of the history of where we've been with WCOA and, sort of the future potentially as we move forward. This year, we built WCOA in response to a global pandemic. And in doing so, we wanted to provide a safe, sound educational alternative for students, but it was never really intended as currently designed this year to be, the model that we would hope to sustain or really desire to sustain long-term, given that we had, overnight, we're trying to build this. but it has served us very well. And we've had our teachers pour their heart and soul into this, families who've, under non-ideal situations, who've really rallied together with their students and with teachers to really make this work. And it has. And we've learned a lot along the way about learning in an online environment, about best ways to communicate and engage students and families. And there have been some things that we'd want to hold on to for forever, and some things we'd like to never do again, as with anything that you do for the first time. And so, part of what we've come to realize is that the circumstances in which we find ourselves now, they've changed greatly. And frankly, they've changed since we started asking families for their initial, potential interest in WCOA. Since the first time we asked to now, we have vaccines, we have changing rules about quarantine, we have all sorts of circumstances that look different, that I think have really impacted families and their decisions about what they'd like for their educational option for their students for next year. And so I think as a result of all of that, when we look at our interest, when we finally closed our survey of our 8,200 plus families across the district, only 125 students, on behalf of 125 students, that's been the interest that we have at this point, which is just over a little bit of 1% of our entire student population. As we've been building plans all along to be prepared for whatever our information may bring us. But at 1% of a student population, that logistically isn't really feasible for us to offer an online option in the same sort of way that we have this year. This year we were able to separate out staff and have staff who were exclusively devoted to WCOA. Those same sorts of circumstances really would be challenging with numbers that small. And part of what I think is contributing to that, especially at the high school level, is we really desire to build flexible learning models for students. And we desire especially for our juniors and seniors, to have an opportunity to have school look different for them, the ways that they can use time and space, but it needs to be paired with something. It's not just for the purpose of, having more time to just do with for whatever, but it's really for the purpose of being able to more fully provide rich and rigorous opportunities for our students, whether those are work-based experiences, whether those are internships or externships, whether they're opportunities for students to really experience things that couldn't happen if they were in classes from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And that's part of our work. That's a significant part of the work that we'll be engaging with our high school, and to a lesser extent, but somewhat of an extent with our middle school. And so I imagine that over the next year to 2 years to 3 years, if we're thinking about our onward and upward plan as a 3-year plan, what I hope to have happen and what we're planning to have happen is that we can package these experiences for students together. And so they can see that if you are taking coursework on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, this is what your Tuesday and Thursday could look like. Or if you're in class on Tuesdays and Thursdays, these are the experiences that you would have an opportunity to participate on the other days. Where right now they're having to imagine those experiences for themselves. They're having to sort of try to piece together all of that in a really short time frame. And I think that's part of a challenge, that they can't even really picture those possibilities. And so that's really on us to help them be able to do that. And so it's really our recommendation that we sort of sunset WCOA as it exists currently, and that we really do build then over the next few years what those flexible learning models can look like, and that we can then reimagine and repackage and reoffer those experiences for students as part of that larger plan. That it is going to take a little while to not only build student and family understanding for what it can look like, but to continue to work with teachers, with community partners to really build out a more robust set of experiences for students. And so right now, that's really our recommendation for how we would move forward in the short term so that we can really build toward our more longer-term version that looks like a more blended, partial face-to-face, like in-school, partial opportunities for students to learn online and then in partnership with other experiences. So are there any questions about that before I would jump to summer school? Okay. Like I said, we've sort of been talking about this along the way, so this, isn't necessarily brand new information. So, summer school enrollment. As you can see, there has been a rather large interest in our summer learning programming across grades K-8. And we are thrilled that this is the case. What this represents is as I've mentioned previously, students can sign up to attend either the first session, which is the first 2 weeks of June, the second session, which is the second 2 weeks, or the entire 4-week session. And so these numbers represent the number of students that will have an attendance during either of those sessions, and then in total. So we're inching up towards 1,100 students over the course of the 4 months between those. We have approximately a little over 120 staff members that have volunteered, who have applied to participate. We will be compensating teachers, of course, for their service. Right now, and those teachers represent teachers of, reading, literacy, and math. We've requested for teachers who represent our more unified arts experiences, so art and music and physical education teachers, intervention specialists, reading specialists. We're really working to package a program that not only support students in their core foundational literacy or math skills, but that really is highly engaging, something that they'll be excited to participate in, that will help them just be able to have an opportunity to remain engaged in learning in ways that will keep them hopefully excited about being in attendance in our West Clermont schools. There are clearly a lot of logistics to work out in order to pull this off, and so that work is well underway, and we'll be providing updates to you kind of along the way. We also will be continuing to partner with the Healthplex. I know that Mr. Overby has had some initial conversations with the Boys and Girls Club as well, who have expressed interest in potentially partnering with us for some afternoon programming. So we'll be exploring that opportunity as well. We will be, I'm working with Mrs. McLeese to coordinate food services for students, so they'll have an opportunity to grab breakfast and some snacks while they're there. And like I said, there are lots of things to coordinate, but I think this is likely going to be one of the largest summer programs in the county, if not in the area. And so I'm really proud that we had a lot of staff members. We can't do it without them, and so a lot of our work over our remaining WOW days that we have, we'll be working with those teachers to build out this programming. Any questions about any of that?
So our plan is still to bus the students?
Yes.
To the
Yep.
location?
Yes. So we'll be, we asked as part of our survey whether families intended to utilize transportation or not. And so we'll be working with Mr. Perry to provide those lists to the bus garage, who will then build out routes for those students. And we have made a commitment that if students attend the Healthplex during that afternoon session, that we would be able to provide transportation to the high school for that as well. So it is really exciting. And like I said before, it's really designed to meet, this isn't just for students who struggle, this could also be for students who are looking for enrichment experiences and sort of everywhere in between. Because we have had, and we're still going to be reaching out to our staff, we could still use some more staff. So for anyone who may be listening tonight, we're definitely not finished with our staffing, but our desire and our goal is to keep our class sizes to a minimum so that we can hopefully target 10 to 12, up to maybe 13 students in a classroom. That will be working flexibly between lots of, stations. But we really don't want it to feel, we want it to feel different than what, maybe students would expect summer school would feel like. We've had a lot of success with that in our third grade camps that we've offered in the past, where it was very high engagement, lots of fast-paced, movement, and really keeping students highly engaged. And so we're working to build off of some of those successes from the past.
Do you want to touch upon why we are just focusing on K through 8, not
Sure.
the high school?
Yeah, so our high school programming right now, our goal is really trying to supporting students in recovering credits. And so that model, our credit recovery model at the high school utilizes Apex, which is a software platform that supports students and being able to move through content. Our high school team is working with high school teachers who will provide some support and assistance with students in that way. But we really need to get students caught up so that next year they really can focus their efforts on original credit and being able to graduate on time. And so it does, given the nature of credits and the need to recover those, the model does look different in that way. And also as a reminder, across grades K-8, we're providing this at no cost to our families. And it really is one of the ways that we're choosing to invest our ESSER funds and our CARES funds to really support the growth of our students.
And I apologize if this is rehashing from last time, but you said kids from K-8 could use this opportunity to catch up or to get ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a second grader who wants to do catch up, they would do second grade programming, but you have a second grader who wants to get ahead, would they then do the third grade programming, or how would?
It would really look more like deepening their learning experiences, so opportunities for students to really dig in and apply some of those grade level content that they have learned maybe previously, that will give them a chance to really engage in activities that are where they're doing more problem solving, they're doing more collaboration with others. Part of how we intend to flexibly group students is to have opportunities where we may be either pushing in the support of a reading specialist. We're also working with, we have gifted intervention specialists who will be supporting us in summer school and building out some of those enrichment experiences. And so it's really designed to be tailored to meet the individual needs of students. So it doesn't mean like accelerating to the next grade level. It's really more about continuing to deepen their learning from their current grade level.
I understand. And then is the plan to keep everyone at their home school or the school that they attended if they were a transfer? Or is
Yeah.
it more of if you only have 5 from one building but you have 25 from another, that essentially those 5 might go to the
So
other?
right now, we have enough interest from each of our buildings that we're intending to build out a model where students would be able to remain in their home school. The only exception to that, and this is part of what we're looking at a little deeper, maybe students that require some specialized programming, where it would require additional levels of nursing support or, health clinic assistance, for example, that we may just try to be mindful of our resources available, that it would be challenging for us to replicate that across all 7 elementaries.
Sure.
So those would be the only exceptions to that, really. But we feel really fortunate that we've had enough interest, and from staff as well. It's our goal that as we're building out class lists, that we're keeping staff supporting students within their building, and to the extent possible to grade levels that they've just taught or have taught most recently, or students that they may be teaching next year. And, you know, that's not 100% possible, but we're getting actually pretty close to that. So we're also really excited about that.
And we'd have normal, or normal, I guess
It's not a word we use much.
Right.
and administrative and clerical support during the hours or during the time that students are there and all of that.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that because some of our secretaries and our health aides are 9 or 10-month contracts. What does that look for these students? Will they
So
still
in
get support?
working with our district nurse, and also part of the information that we've gathered are students who have like a health plan. So, you know, and who may require, you know, some specialized medical support, or at least people to, you know, be on staff or on hand for that. So we're working closely with Heather Burns to ensure that we have proper staff in place in that way. We're also working through things like, you know, if a student is going to be absent, like, you know, what's our process going to be for that? Things like that, you know, that are details that we're working through. But yeah, I mean, it's larger than any of our elementary schools, for sure. So combined, there will be a lot of efforts to, you know, to get all of it, all the details straight, but we're well on our way to making that happen.
And you also had mentioned that the focus would be solely on those students that are registered, enrolled in West Clermont schools, not the parochial or...
Yeah, I mean, I think that our capacity for providing the service as it is we're maxing out on the capacity that we have. You know, I do think that as we make plans, this is something I'd love to see us be able to offer again next summer. And so, you know, being able to make plans for that earlier on may open up the possibilities of, you know, who we may be able to offer it to, you know, what staff we may be able to have to support it. So I think for this first round, we're about maxed out. But, you know, but I think that we would like to be able to support, you know, students who live in our district really are our students, even if they don't attend school here. So that would be great, but I think like right now, we're going to have to keep it to students who are currently enrolled in the district. Any other questions, thoughts? Okay, well, like I said, we'll provide updates kind of as we move forward, but this is sort of where we stand now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ellie. As part of my comments, I just really wanted to congratulate and thank our team. If to kind of put time behind it, we were bringing the Upward and Onward plan to you right before spring break. We hit spring break and we've been back for 2 weeks. And so all of these hires sitting in this room, as well as the ones on the page, in addition to summer school coming to life, has all happened in 2 weeks. Everyone looks kind of tired, don't they? It's been an incredible effort that the team has put forth. And what I would say about each person sitting in these chairs tonight as new employees of West Clermont is that there's a stack of high-quality candidates that were poured through, and they surfaced to the top. And so we are very proud of our ability to get out early, to be able to attract some really high talent. It was a very competitive, every position was highly competitive, and so we couldn't be happier. And for this recruitment effort and for all the details that the team has been going through. And this especially takes, you know, Tiffany, who was here earlier, and Lance, and, you know, usually there's like a building plan through the summer where you're cleaning space and you have the building to yourself to do what you need to, and we're turning all that upside down to say, well, we're gonna need 2 wings. So there's just tons of details to go through. And we are grateful for our staff for raising their hand and saying they want to be a part of it with us. Because that really speaks to the heart of what the staff is all about. Investing in a time where, like, you know, they're going on empty, and just so impressed. I want to say a special acknowledgement for Julie Renner. She had to leave today, but pretty much accepted a position here to fill in as the principal at Merwin in a hot, moment of need. And she comes with a wealth of knowledge and experience and hit the ground running today in an excellent fashion, and we'll be able to hand off very well to Thad. And so I just want to thank her for that. I want to welcome all of you to a wonderful district with wonderful opportunities ahead of us. And if I could, I would keep you all here for a meeting so we could get right to work tonight, because I'm so excited that you're here. But I won't do that. And then finally, I just want to acknowledge, recently, Dan Aki visited West Clermont High School last week to give presentations to our four-way test winners. These are members of the Interact Club, which is a part of Rotary, but the teenage version. And the purpose of the speech is to apply the principles of Rotary's International's four-way test to a current ethical issue. Students are challenged to identify a topic that they feel passionate about and to adopt a point of view from which they seek to persuade others. Yatra and Mackenzie, and I'll say their full names in a minute, based their presentations on the four-way test. Is it truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? So who doesn't want our youth kind of thinking through those four questions and working in? And as I mentioned at the last meeting, they were just so passionate and wonderful. Yatra Patel placed second place on the four-way test, and Mackenzie Meyer was third place on the four-way test. So we are so proud of them for being brave, doing a Zoom presentation, which always adds like another element of challenge. And we're just thankful for how the Rotary has kind of wrapped around us at West Clermont to help develop us into like strong citizens and contributors. So thank you to our Rotary friends. So that's it. Any questions for me? Okay, thank you. That's it.
Okay. Treasurer's business.
Good, thank you. So just want to give, hopefully this is a fiscal fitness minute and not a fiscal fitness hour as we go through it. But really two components with it. One is just want to make sure that the board is getting that monthly update on our financial report. Just really split between the revenues and expenses. If we think of March as 9/12 or 75% through the year, where are we currently and how are we doing? If we look at the revenue side of it, we're on track. Our property taxes were a little bit delayed, as we had mentioned in the previous month. Typically, we get the settlement in February because the bills went out a little bit later, approximately 30 days later. We didn't receive our settlement until early April, but that did confirm that because of the property valuation increase, the collections were higher for us, so that is a positive. Our state foundation funding is on track. If you recall, we're at 77%, almost 78%. That's really due because the projection did not have the reduction of the reduction. So the governor gave us back some funds that were to have been reduced. So we really are on track with our revenues throughout. If you look at the bottom two items, the state property tax reimbursement, that's really only received twice a year, once in September, October after the settlement. That's from the state. That's the homestead rollback reimbursement. And we should be getting our homestead rollback reimbursement sometime this month or in early May with that. The other state revenue is at 50%. That is primarily due because it's a reimbursement basis, most of those revenues that we get there, so that would be coming to us in April, May, and June with that. Chart just really shows the significance of local property tax and the state foundation. They're really the majority of the revenue that we get in the district. On the expenses, we're again on track. Salary and benefits, comprise the majority of our budget. If again, March is 9/12 of the year, 75%. We're at the 73% mark, so we're good there. Our purchase services is under that mark. I do expect that we do try and pay most of those obligations for purchase services, materials and supplies. We try and peg those expenses to get those paid off. So we do spend more sometimes in May and June just to get the POs paid with that. So that they're really not as far behind as you think they are with that. So in total, we're 70%, just under the 75% mark, so we're there. Chart really just shows you again the the significance of salary and benefits and the purchase services of that budget. Other highlights, I did mention that the real estate was delayed. It did confirm that our tax collections our tax collections are greater than what was expected because of property value increase. As you recall, we had an $11.5 million short-term tax anticipation note because of a low point. That was issued in January. We did pay that off in April, so we're good there. That was at an extremely low rate. One of the things that we are doing right now is really studying where we are with our revenues from student fees and other fee collections. When we looked across the board, they were about 50% the level where we normally see them, and so we're really looking into those during the month. So what's ahead of us? Once those tax bills are out, once that first collection is due, we start looking at the TIF payments, and so we do reconcile those with the county and with the two townships as we go forward. We did repay that note. In May, we're reviewing we either file or we review the property value contest that go to the Board of Revisions. That's being done now. We will, at the next board meeting in May, look at the updated 5-year forecast. There's a formal adoption. We do that twice a year. And then coming in June, we will have the amending and supplementing appropriations for this year, but then that'll be followed by the budget for next year with that annual appropriation. One of the things I do want to get into, and that's the next couple of slides, is tracking the legislation that's going on with the state, the new biennium. You've heard the term Fair School Funding Plan. I know that there's been a lot of talk about that. So just the next couple slides are, what is it? Why is it being brought up now? What are the benefits of it? Who's supporting it? What's it going to cost the state? How does it, and probably the most important question is the last one, how does that impact West Clermont Local School District? So I could just take a couple of minutes and go through that with you. So the Fair School Funding Plan is not new. It's been worked on for the last 3 years. That actually was started with a House bill proposal that's over a year old. It was originally known as the Patterson Cup bill that went through. The 3 things with that that are important, because it is a new model, is to replace the current state funding formula that we have in place. A lot of this was driven by the fact that although it's a formula, very few school districts currently are on that formula. They were either capped like West Clermont was. In other words, the formula said that we should receive more money, but frankly, the state budget couldn't afford it, so we were capped. There were other districts where the formula says they should receive less money, but there was a floor or a bottom that guaranteed them that they wouldn't receive less than the prior year. Okay? Because a lot of school districts were not on that formula, it was really time to look at something new and different with that. So 3 elements of the new model. One is it's a base cost. It's an input model. It really looks at the number of students and the type of students that are there and funds that. It goes back and addresses, again, for local control, it addresses that share between how much does the state pay, how much is being paid locally, okay? That local contribution, like in the past, but calculated a little bit differently, is going to be based on the wealth capacity within that school district. The 2 components are going to be the property values and adjusted gross income. It's going to look at that and blend those 2 things together. And then it looks at specific categorical aid, which again is looking at the students. So the disadvantaged students, students in poverty, preschool, special education, English language learners, looks at those categories and funds those specifically. What's the benefits? It's a solution or a proposed solution to a long-term problem that started with the DeRolf case. It really is intended to fix that constitutionally. It provides some predictable funding. So in other words, if you can be on that formula and it is based on the number of students and it's based on your local wealth, it should be easier to predict going forward with that. So in other words, you're not limited by this floor or this ceiling, okay, this cap or this guarantee to do that. One of the proposed benefits is that it reduces the over-reliance on local taxes. That may be a subjective comment that's in there, but that's what the intent is. The other intent is the statement that it can be funded with existing dollars, and we'll talk about a little bit about that in a minute to do that. Why now? It actually started prior to the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, I think it kind of slowed down. There were other important matters, as we all know. But Ohio is recovering faster than most of the other states. Okay, when we look at the state's budget and we look at the revenue flow, it has been recovering faster. The second thing is, from the beginning, is this plan did have a bipartisan support to it. So it really looked at support, both bipartisan in the House and in the Senate with that, to do that. Who's supporting it? Right now, all the major school organizations are supporting that, all the way from the School Boards Association, which we belong to, the Buckeye Association of School Administrators, that's the superintendents and administrators, and the Ohio Association of School Business Officials. They actually each had representatives on that committee to draft that formula, to draft that model to do it. Okay, what's it going to cost? What's it going to cost the state? What's it going to cost us? Current estimates is, when this formula is fully funded, range between $1.6 to $2 billion beyond what the current funding is for it, okay? That's approximately 25% more, okay? There's the admission that that can't be done right now, even though we are recovering faster. And so the current legislation looks at phasing that in over 3 bienniums or 6 years, okay? So as funds are available, money comes in. I don't want to complicate, the information I'm throwing at you, but a lot of that has to do with the statute in Ohio on how much the budget can increase. So there's a state limitation on how much the state budget can increase. That's what's holding some of this back to do it. So even if the funds were available, there is some state limitations on how much of an increase the state budget can have to do that for it. So the big question is, how does that impact West Clermont Local School District? So you heard me say that there is $1.6 to $2 billion more going into this funding. There's a guarantee as we phase this in that no school district should lose any money. Again, some districts were on a cap, some districts were on a guarantee. Typically, those that were on a guarantee, when you funded it, they would fall below. They may lose money with that. There were 3 simulations that were done over a 2-year period. The first simulation that came out with Cup-Patterson, this district actually kind of broke even or lost a little bit of revenue. That was back in 2019. A second simulation was done in December, and when we looked at that simulation, it looked like our school district, when it was fully funded, would gain $3.7 million, okay? The most recent projection that was done a week or 2 ago, in April, lowers that amount when it's fully funded for the school district to just a little bit over $1 million to do that. So when it's fully funded, we would see an increase of about $1 million to do that. That's in 6 years. My however there, kind of leads to some things, okay? The projections for that current biennium include a guarantee, so no districts would lose dollars. So even if it looked like if you were on that new fair school funding formula, if it looked like you would lose dollars, they were guaranteeing that you would not, that you would stay flat with that. It looked like the proposed increase back in January, I believe it was, December, January, it was in January, when the governor's original executive budget came out, we were set to gain dollars. We were set to gain dollars. We were going back to the 2019 level of state funding, and then they were going to give us additional dollars in the student wellness fund that the governor had set up. Looked like we were going to receive an additional $600,000 next year in FY22, an additional $1 million in FY23. If the fair school funding formula goes through we will not get that additional funding, okay? So that was proposed, that really is going to be used to fund the formula, okay? With that, for FY '22 and '23, it looks like we will just have no increase. We'll be at a zero level, if anything minimal for us, okay? The important piece of this is that in any formula, all the parts are moving, okay? So if you think about, go back to the beginning of the three things that it was dependent upon, it's an input base, so the number of students. The number of students is really important. If we lose students, okay, we lose funding. Gain students, we can gain funding with that. On the local share, if our school district becomes wealthier, i.e. if property values increase, that means that the formula is going to say you should pay more locally. If average income increases, we should pay more locally. So those are the moving parts in there. If you look at the categorical areas, economically disadvantaged, i.e. poverty, if we look at English language learners, if those increase, we'll get increased funding for that. So all those pieces move around and get calculated. But for the foreseeable future, if the bill goes through, okay, we will be on, we'll be pretty much on a guarantee of that 2019 level of funding with it. So where are we at? Last week, House Bill 110 did pass. First step of having that bill go through. We'll be monitoring that into the future as we go through. I suspect that, things won't be settled till May or June, up to the last minute with that. The good news is that we did predict that our level of funding would go back to 2019. The student wellness money, we kind of held that at bay and in reserve until it was firm that we were going to get it. We really didn't plan on spending it, right? We just kind of knew that it was going to be out there, in case. But so we're on track with what we're projecting. Why is this important right now to us? A, we've got that 5-year forecast update coming up to us, so what numbers do we put in that projection, number one. Number two is as we move forward into FY '22 and FY '22 with an actual budget, it really has a bearing on, how we want to spend our funds. So a lot of information, with the Fair School Funding Plan. What I would ask of you, if you have questions on that I can research for you and get you some answers, let me know what those are. If I can answer some now, I will. If I can't, we'll go back and get information for you. That's it.
Any questions?
now?
I had two questions. On your bar graphs on slides 6 and 8, the blue, the 5-year forecast, that represents what we should be at annually, right? And the red
Correct.
bar represents where we are
In March.
year to date.
At the
So
end of
it's not a
March.
comparison of where we should be at this time
Correct.
year to date and where we actually, it's actual.
It is the
Okay.
actual
I just
for the
wanted to-
year. Yep, that's correct.
And then you mentioned student fees on slide 9.
Correct.
Is that, you said 50%, does that mean we're about 50% collected in that we have uncollected student
So-
fees of about 50%?
The highlight there is that we're reviewing all of that, and you are correct. It is, the collection rate is about 50%, and we are looking at both this year and all prior years.
Okay.
And, we'll be following up on all that.
That was my question, thank you.
Correct. We're seeing that collection rate, not just in student fees, but, I know like with the activity fund, the activity accounts, the lower revenues and that too, and it's very similar across the board, about 50%. So although that's a negative, from where I sit in my chair, the people out in the schools with the activity funds, the people out in the schools managing those supply budgets are doing a phenomenal job because I'll be honest with you, I thought that I would hear a louder cry about that reduction of available funds with it, and to compliment the people out in the schools, they do a pretty good job of managing what I would deem right now, the little they get, they do a great job of managing that.
So I think one thing that's hurt us with the collection of school fees is that in years past, specifically at the high school, we had a day before school began where the students go in and pick up their schedule, and then they pay their parking pass, they pay their student fees, they get their picture taken. It's like a one-day event, and they do it in blocks so that the kids get there and they get to socialize and all that good stuff. We missed out on that this year. And so in order for people to get what their student fees are, you have to go hunt for it out on the website and all of that. So I wonder if parents are just not.
They're getting
for
reminders,
that.
right? Like email reminders?
So I believe they do get that reminder. Two things that are going on. So we're really kind of reviewing what's due, what's delinquent, but we're also looking into with the current software package that we use. We're seeing that we could get a better package which may cost less to the parents to pay. Not the fee they pay, but the processing fee.
Yep.
That may cost less for them, and there's more opportunity to communicate with them back and forth. So we're looking, we had our first session and looking at that software last week, and we believe we can make those changes coming up.
That would help.
And that's the new Powerschool software, right?
It's an
Actually,
addition
Or the
to.
addition to it, yeah.
It's
Like
the
an
same
add-on.
vendor,
Yeah.
yeah, it's an add-on to that, but yeah, and that all has to
It's
do with
within
helping.
Yeah,
our-
we're trying, everything we buy, we're trying to like align with this tool. And sometimes there's a direct alignment, sometimes they just own the product and there's still some maneuvering to do, but that, we're trying to be mindful of that to make everything as interoperable as possible and easy for the users in all levels.
I think what we've been doing as we look at that, we know there's two users, right? There's us internally, but there's also our customer, and so part of, i.e. the parents and the students. So I think what we're doing first is, okay, it may be some things that might be a little bit more challenging to us, but if it's easier for the customer, we're going that route.
Good. Anything further? Okay, thank you. Moving on to board's business, Mr. Shumlin.
I don't have anything. Ready to get home, watch the Reds break this losing streak.
Not against the Dodgers.
Mrs. Delaney.
Well, I'll make up for Mr. Chumley. Welcome to all of our new administrators and staff that our awesome team has brought on. We are so excited to bring you into the West Clermont family. We've got some faces coming back, and we look forward to our new faces and getting to know you and welcoming you into this awesome place to be. This Sunday, if anybody is bored and has nothing to do, the athletic boosters at West Clermont High School are hosting a fundraiser. It's called Still Howling. It's partial online, and it's a 4-hour event, and it's going to be at the RJ Cinema. They have been a great community partner. But this is to make up and to build and raise money for our student athletes that are seniors. The athletic boosters is a near and dear to my heart, as I was part of that organization at the high school, and they have missed out because of COVID. They've missed out on a lot of fundraising to provide these scholarships to our students. So if you've got some time on Sunday and you just want to come and meet some fun people, they're a great group. If also, the high school, the senior class is doing an Adopt a Senior. So if you get on the Facebook, if you're friend them on Facebook and you're interested in adopting a senior, the goal is to get all 600 seniors adopted by someone to just, give them that last bit of a boost through their senior year. This was started by the senior class last year, and so they've picked it up and moved it forward this year, so it's a great opportunity to share some love with our seniors during this kind of crazy year. And otherwise, thank you to Mrs. Adams and her team, and we're almost at the end of the school year, even though it's still going to go through the summer. You guys have made a difficult situation delightful. You're up.
Mr. Schaff?
I will jump on Mrs. Delaney's wagon with thanking the administration, welcoming the new people. I think I say a lot how I'm amazed that the team that we have and how the team could get any better, and then we go and hire these excellent people, and it just takes us to an even higher level, which I didn't think was possible. So thank you and welcome, and I look forward to great things in the district. So that's all I have.
Mr. Reddy?
I'll also say welcome to everyone. Mrs. Lawson, it's good to have you back home. I hope you stay. I was very excited. I had to give Mrs. Adams a text when I saw that name on there. And Mrs. Renner, I have known for many years, met her at Beachmont Racket Club. We used to work out before school, got to know her really well, and she is a true gem. I've heard nothing but great things about her from parents and teachers. So I'm really excited. It's good to have all of you here.
And I echo that as well. Welcome. We're glad to see you and have you be a part of our team. Wanted to do a shout out to our athletic department. Back in February, we were awarded the regional playoff games for basketball. And the league was so impressed with the facility and the accommodations and the organization, you just name it, they were very pleased with it. And they ended up awarding the high school with the All-Star game. And so this past Saturday, they hosted the Division 3-4 game at 5 o'clock and Division 1-2 at 7. So they were back-to-back. And the players that played, they were really good, and they showed great sportsmanship, and they loved the facility. We kept hearing over and over again how awesome this was, and where has this been for all of our lives? And it's kind of funny because it's a hidden gem in Clermont County, and it's getting people in the building, and it's getting us recognized. So kudos to our athletic department and our principal and everybody else involved that got that awarded to West Clermont. That was a big deal for us.
Well, and I'll recognize AJ Gillespie was a player in
Yeah.
that game, so one of our own.
Yeah, and he did good in the game. I went and watched them play, and AJ did not disappoint the crowd. It was kind of fun, and when they announced him as being a hometown kid, everybody was like, just all proud of it. So it was good. So thank you. Anything further? Next board meeting is on Monday, May the 10th. We need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Schaff and Mr. Shumley. Roll call?
Mr. Schaff?
Yes.
Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman?
Yes.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Mrs. Delaney?
Yes.
5 yes.
Motion approved. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Good night.